How's everybody doing? Just working on the IS today. I got some front brakes and some rear brakes for it from Max Brakes. Just that way I can get it fully safety and whatnot, because right now I just have a 10-day on it until I can get these brakes done. Because the front rotors are just cooked. Here's what I ended up getting. And so for instance, I got the carbon ceramic rears, the carbon ceramic fronts. I also bought front hardware Carlson and rear hardware from Carlson. And then I got their top of line, flat coated, slotted and drilled. It's out here. They seem to be in pretty damn good condition. Pretty good quality. So those are the rears. And then let's pop these fronts open. Now these brakes, front and rear, so rotors, front and rear, pads, front and rear, came to $203 Canadian shipped to my door. So that's pretty damn cheap. And I've heard some pretty damn good things about Max Brakes, so to be honest, I'm pretty ecstatic because it was like $160 for just front pads and rotors from Part Source. Like, these things are pretty damn nice quality. I'm ecstatic. And then my rotors are just completely rusty, so I'm just gonna paint them in some black. Don't want to be no hot boy. Just a little bit of gloss. But as you can see, these front rotors are atrocious. The rears are pretty much brand new. So I'm pulling these off and I'm throwing these out or giving them away to whoever wants them for free if someone wants them, because I'm just gonna run the same front and rears. And then, yeah, so I'm gonna get these brakes all banged out and let's get her started. So these top, these top bolts right here are 14s. And then these bigger bolts down in here, right here, are 17s. Now for these back ones, you're gonna wanna use a 17 deep, and these ones you can just use a 14 shallow. So let's go grab some tools. So we're gonna need 14 shallow, 17 deep. Perfect. Huh. Looks like we gotta pull out the big gun. Wow. That was no joke. Oh. That was no joke. Those are C's. C's right on. Now, as you can see, there's literally nothing left of these. Crazy. Then we're gonna move on to the backs, and they are a pin style for the pads. Now there's only one set of actual nuts or bolts, and that's this right here. Let me get that a little better. So these are 17s, there's one here, and then there's one just down a little bit further. And crack both of those loose, if they'll crack loose. Not as tight as the front, so that's a good thing. That's not gonna do it. This bad boy. Those will come off. As you can tell, wow, that I was not expecting. Well, that kind of sucks. There's like barely any e-brake pads. So that's something I'm gonna have to do in the future. Damn. Okay. So this caliper I gotta pull apart too. As you can see, the pads are literally like brand new. But I got all new hardware, like a new pin, all that jazz. But whoever did these pads, as you can see, how these are just loose and flopping around like this, there's actually a spring that goes in between these pads to push them outwards. That's clearly not there. That's garbage. All right. So here we go. All right, so now we're just gonna give this caliper here a little fresh coat of paint. This VHT. Give it a nice light tack coat. We'll have something to grab onto. All right, now while that stuff's drying, pull out this other side. as you can see, obviously this side's the same as the other side. Same with this, except for they actually have the plug. Look at that. And no shims. Alright, so this is almost dry. Looks like I plan on eventually going, hopefully, and getting like an LS front caliper kit. But for the time being, this will do the trick. These are nice rotors. This is just to hold the rotor on, so it's not flopping around. But no, they're definitely nice rotors. Alright, so should be dry now. Alright. Alright, now there's two sets of hardware. You got these ones with this little clip on the bottom as well as on the side. And then you have these ones which are just on the side. Now the ones with both the clips, these ones go on the bottom. So when the caliper is on the car, on the bottom, so that these prongs are actually pushing upwards on the pads. Alright, so all the hardware is on. As you can see, those are the bottom ones with the two prongs. Those are the top ones with just the singles. These are all lubed up, ready to go in. Stick them in there for now. Okay, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this and we're gonna apply. Let me squeeze the trigger just see how it throws a little bit out. We're gonna throw some of that in there. Now, out of all the brake lubricant I've used, and there's been a lot, this by far works the best. It lasts the longest. No squeaks, no garbage. It doesn't melt away with the heat or anything like that. Now there is such thing as putting too much, so you don't want to do that. You also don't want it to be on these inside edges like this, because then it'll get on the rotor. So I'm gonna wipe that clean. Any excess or debris. Just grab a piece of tire. Wipe that on the inside. Grab some of that there. Okay, now we're essentially ready to start throwing the actual pads in. So that's what we'll do. So look at the pads. That is some thick plastic, my friends. A knife probably would have been a little bit easier. Okay, so now when it comes to these pads, you'll notice that two of them have a stopper and two of them don't. These go on the inside, okay? So this actually stops at the piston side, letting you know pretty much, well, you're out of brakes. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna take some of this, just do this edge up nice. Alright, usually throw a little bit on here. All right, and then this pad section right here, usually, well not usually, but the piston from the actual caliper itself sits here. For instance, my fronts are 2 pistons, so there's a piston that sits here and a piston that sits here. I usually put a nice little layer where they touch, and that way I don't have any noises. All right, now just go ahead, pop this bad boy in here. All right, so this caliper's ready to go now. Pads are all built on there, all lubed up. Now we can get this situated because this is fully dry now. And we'll get that one back together. So both the fronts are done. And this one rear one back here is done. Now it's kind of crazy because these rear brakes are kind of like a Brembo style. And I'll show you how to install pads and whatnot and everything on this side. So first thing you're going to want to do is grab your rotor, and you have to actually adjust the e-brake first. That's the first thing that you're going to do. Grab our rotor. So the first thing you're going to do, grab your rotor, toss it on. That's too loose. So what we're going to do, we're going to grab this, and we're going to go, see this little spindle right here? We're going to actually and what you do is you pretty much just put it on, that's a little bit tighter, and you want to go a little bit more. Now see, I've gone too far. I physically can't get it on. So now I'm going to go back. 3. Turn it on. Okay, so now on that other rotor over there, I was missing this plug. So I pretty much took a grommet and filled it with silicone. And I'm going to pop this in here. Just like that. And I'm actually going to throw a tiny bit of silicone on the inside. Just a tiny bit. Perfect. That's just gonna go on. And then what you're gonna do is, it's gonna be hard to do. Switch hands here. Okay, so what you're gonna do a little bit. Now you can do this before you put it on, which is what I probably should have done, but I forgot. Okay, now put that excess off. Now we're gonna grab our pads. Now these rear pads The inside one, again, has the wear indicator, and then the outside one does not. And then here is the hardware itself. So grab all this. All right. Now, the first thing you're gonna do is put some brake lube on the pads themselves. Try and do this with one hand. It's not working very well. Alright, and I'm going to put a little bit on the back. Alright, now, like I said, it's like the Brembo style, so now we're all lubed up. And you're literally just going to slide it in between the rotor, just like that. Like literally, slide it on in. Now once you slid in, let's actually twist this rotor here a little bit. Okay. Now, because the brake pads were new in the rear, or semi-new, but they were driven on a little bit, so I'm gonna have to compress in the rear caliper just a touch. Now on these rear calipers, there's a piston on this side and there's a piston on this side. So the easiest way to do this is to put your first pad in on the back side, grab a set of channel locks, okay? And you're gonna get in, one sec here, switch up the hands, throw some tools. Okay, and you're literally gonna get on in there like that and just squeeze. All right, now that she's like that, now I can get some paste on this one. This is really hard to do with one hand, I must say. Now, one thing you don't want is brake lube on the pad. So if you do, because it does happen every now and then, what you're going to want to do, take her over, just give her a spray with some brake cleaner. Now we're just gonna pop this girl in on the opposite side, obviously. This side here, just like that. Okay, now this is where things start to get a little bit tricky. Okay, so what you have to do is, okay, so what you're gonna do, you have this pin and you also have this pin, okay? These face upwards, okay? So see how these little grooves are slided in, so now it's stuck like that, okay? This faces downwards and this faces upwards. These actually, okay, these go into the top holes on the pads and this goes behind the pin. I'll show you. So slide that in like that. Now the one thing is see how these are facing that way? That's not how you want it. You want them facing the same way as this. So see how that curves this way? You want these facing this way as well. Now you're going to need a flathead and a small part. A small screwdriver, a normal screwdriver, a small angled pry bar, and a hammer. Now what you're going to do, well, as you can see, what you had to do, see how this pin right here that goes all the way through, it actually rests on this gold piece, okay? And then these, Oh, one slipped out. But these metal prongs, as you can see, go into the actual top piece, and then they go behind the spring like that. So that's how that happened. So brakes are done. Just need to throw the wheels back on, go out and brake test it. Go out and actually break in the brakes. Other than that, that's pretty much all there is for today. And then I can go and get this thing officially finalized, and then I can start doing some exhaust work, because to be honest, I'm not a fan of how stock she sounds right now. But thanks guys, I really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions or anything, just let me know and I'll get back to you.